In partnership with Singing Hills Memorial Park, welcome to Journey Home Radio, discussing the most important topics around life's most sacred goodbye. This is Journey Home Radio.
Hello and welcome to Journey Home Radio, where farewell meets forever. I'm your host, Iris Wise, and I'm joined here today with Cody, my colleague at Singing Hills Memorial Park, and today we're going to talk about how to protect your digital legacy.
Yeah, everyone talks about a digital footprint because, at this point in time, we all have one. But most people don't think about their passing in general until they're faced with someone else's loss.
Right.
And at that point, you're gone. No one knows your passwords. They can't get into your email. And it is a monumental task if you were to reach out to Facebook Absolutely. And try and get in.
Yes. And we hear all the time, I'll have families come in. They're like, I can't unlock my husband's phone, or I can't open his Facebook, or just all those, social media. Cody and I grew up in a time when we were very young, when the internet first came about.
We were coding MySpace at 11.
Yes.
I was putting my favorite Green Day songs on my profile.
Oh, yes. And then the blitzy little flashing, girl power and all those fun little things you could add to your profile is so different from what we have now. I feel like everything's so uniform now, but I do miss MySpace. Rest in peace.
The top 8.
The top 8. Actually, I just read that yesterday was the very last day for AOL dial-up service. So that is an end of an era right there. For those of you who still have dial-up, it is no longer a thing, sadly. But who could forget that, startup, and having to share your family computer. I think thinking back, when I first started using the internet, I was about 11 years old. Mm-hmm. And I remember creating my first email address. I'm not going to say it on here but you get really creative, and some of us have had our emails for a very long time. And that's why we're bringing this topic up today, because the last thing we want is for anybody's information to be compromised after they pass. So Cody and I are going to talk a little bit about some tools that you can do for yourself and for your loved ones to protect your assets. So one of the first things, obviously, we just talked about email, but a lot of us have a Gmail account, and a lot of us have some type of Outlook or
Google
Drive or Yahoo. And what ends up happening is that those photos and videos, they get uploaded to a drive. And if something were to happen to you or to a family member, it's important to have those passwords saved, set aside, and to have somebody trusted who can access those files. Wouldn't you say, Cody?
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be, it doesn't even have to be a family member, a child, a relative. You can actually leave these passwords and access to your data in the hands of professionals like an estate lawyer.
Right. Yes. Because there's so much out there. We have so many types of subscriptions out there. We're talking about Spotify, Netflix, Amazon, PayPal, Venmo, your cryptocurrency, all your online banking, and just making sure that you start listing all of those things out ahead of time. I know for myself, I do have my passwords written down on an actual piece of paper somewhere, but I'm not going to say where. But I do have it stored somewhere. And I think it is important because, like Cody and I have mentioned in the past, when families come in, and it's so frustrating when you don't have access to someone's accounts to notify people that they have passed.
Yeah, depending on how involved your loved ones are with your finances, like you could have, I mean, for all intents and purposes, a Swiss bank account.
Right.
They just have zero idea about it. And that's why when we meet with a family, whether it's at need or pre-need, we always walk them through our legacy planner, because there is a section in there where you can put your, you don't have to put your bank account number, obviously, but you can say, hey, I've got a Wells Fargo, I've got this, credit union, blah, blah, blah. But again, that's one of those things. I just had a family come in and they were like, well, Dad had a safe and no one knows what the combination is. And so they were literally going to have to get I assume a locksmith to come drill it out.
Yeah. And that can be very costly. And, who knows what's inside that. It could be just home videos or,
it might not even be what you're looking for.
Exactly. Or, some people have their guns stored away in locked up. So, that can get very costly. I've seen videos online of people trying to open up safes. And I mean, it is very important to have that written down somewhere, or just having that information in the hands of somebody that you trust.
And, there's actually services online that you can sign up for where basically you go in, it's like a digital version of our legacy planner almost. Right. So it's got all the, places for you to put your accounts, your social media. You can upload photos, videos, things like that. And there is an email that gets sent out to you periodically that asks for your password to make sure that you're still with us. And on the day that you don't respond to it, it triggers an email that goes out to whoever you've designated, and they receive a password and access to all the things that you've stored in your profile.
Right. And that is so important to have that already set up, especially if you are a single person and you tend to be isolated, because what ends up happening is that if you have bills or automatic bill payments, those will still keep going. It's most likely like SDG&E won't be notified right away that you've passed. They're not going to know when to turn off the electricity. Aircox cable bill is going to still get auto draft, and all of those things. And that can affect there is still your credit that is still there. I mean, you still have things that are owed even after you pass, unfortunately. Those are realities. And the last thing we want is for any of your family members or somebody that your significant other would have to be burdened with trying to, finalize those payments and taking over the debt that has been collected.
And, you can contest those things, but I mean, is that something you really want to do when you've just lost a loved one?
Right.
Like, no, it's much better just to have these things set up so that when the time comes, your family's not scrambling for information. I know I've mentioned it before, but one of the things that was kind of the most heartbreaking for me working in a mortuary was, sometimes you have to know like your grandma's maiden name for the death certificate, and people get there, they think they have everything, they think their loved one has taken care of it all, and we have to be the bearers of bad news.
Right. And that's not a comfortable position for either of us. Trust us. Like, we don't like having to tell you, hey, this wasn't finalized yet, or I personally have seen where, part of our job at Singing Hills is reaching out to families for file reviews. And a lot of the times when we reach out to families, their phone number has changed because they no longer have a landline. Their address is no longer the same because they've moved out of state, or they've moved into a facility or with another family member. So part of our job is reaching out to people periodically, and we're, asking, is your information up to date? And part of that includes like a valid phone number, address, and your email address too, because sometimes we have to send you information digitally. So very important that if you have anything already planned out with us at Singing Hills or with any local mortuaries, reach out and just ask like, hey, is everything okay on my account? And, do I owe anything? Because oftentimes, people will come in and they think everything's already taken care of, but reality is they just, reserved a space. There was no talk about a headstone or the type of vault, whether they wanted a casket or cremation. Right, Cody? We see that too often.
Yeah, and then they come in wondering, what would mom and dad have liked on their marker, on their headstone?
Right.
And that's the other thing is we can actually, I've had people come in and prearrange and then they want their headstone made immediately. So they're both still living and it only has their birthdays on it, but they wanted to see it in person. So we can actually either make it and deliver it and install it, or we can put it into the system so that when the time does come, all we have to do as family service advisors is go in and click produce.
And then that's where that digital legacy comes in. So let's say you came in and you decided to design a headstone with Cody and myself. And obviously we'll give you a hard file, but we are also able to create a digital printout for you. So of your headstone and how you want that created and designed, and you can actually save that as a PDF. If you don't know what a PDF is, it's a little file that you can save onto your computer or your phone. Very different from a floppy disk.
Do you know what it stands for?
What does it stand for?
Portable digital format.
Oh, I love it. See, we all these acronyms and we think about, and that's awesome. But again, going back to just preserving your digital legacy, some of us out there, like for myself,
I was just about to say, like, it's not all about bank accounts and insurance policies. Like, we want to be remembered. Our legacy is supposed to not only help the people move on after we've passed, but hold our space in history. And Iris is an artist, and a pretty dang good one, actually. And so we were talking earlier about, like, what do you do for your art, your collection?
Right. Like, how do you preserve that? For those of you who are just tuning in, I'm your host, Iris, and I'm here with Cody, my colleague here at Singing Hills Memorial Park. And we're talking about the benefits of pre-planning your digital legacy. We are talking about how to preserve your online portals, and we're going into talking about why it's important to preserve your creative work. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, myself, I am an artist, and I have an Instagram account that I use. I have 2 Instagram accounts, and I know that if something were to happen to me, the last thing I would want is for someone to go in there and hack my account, because I've seen that happen. There's a lot of people out there that they consider themselves an influencer, right, Cody?
Pretty much everyone.
Pretty much everyone these days considers themselves an influencer. But my specific Instagram account it has a lot of my artwork that I've done digitally and photos of my actual physical work. So I know that if something were to happen to it, I would absolutely be devastated. And I'm sure that there's plenty of people out there. The nice thing, though, is that there's some accounts like your YouTube,
Facebook.
And your Facebook, and your some blog sites. Those will stay public. But there's some, like your personal website. So let's say you had a business like on Etsy, or you did something specific. Registering your business and having a copyright formally, and then having that
designated to someone.
Designated to someone will protect that your work doesn't just, get dropped. So if somebody, were to be able to
and they can't claim it for themselves.
Exactly. So all your hard work, because we see that sometimes people you think you trust, or somebody in your family will just come in and they'll take what you've worked really hard for and then just take it as their own and do whatever they would like with it.
Sign their name at the bottom.
So we see that way too often. A great start is building what we call a digital asset will. There's some websites out there that you can go and you can start a draft. But typically a traditional will, and I'm going to let Cody elaborate a little bit on this as well. As far as California, it does not, our state does not accept purely digital unsigned wills. What that means is that you have to have a printed will that you signed, and you can have up to 2 disinterested witnesses. So somebody who is not
you have to have 2 witnesses.
Yes, someone who is not a conflict of interest. So typically we would recommend getting it notarized.
Yeah, because that's just going to be the most surefire way. We don't question a notary stamp. Signatures, like if someone tries to contest it, then it gets taken a little too far. But there are a couple ways you could do this, because when I first got into the industry, I remember, so when I was a kid, family computer, I think I was playing like Harry Potter back when we actually had like discs for games.
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember you just unlocked a memory for me.
But I closed it out and like a Word document popped up. I was probably like 11 maybe, and it was my parents just typing up a will. And
my God.
And I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, one of them's dying. No, it was just them thinking ahead. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple ways you can do it. And when I first started working in the industry in California, of course, we use Adobe Sign, DocuSign for most things now. And so California typically won't accept actually, not typically, they will not accept a will that's been signed through Adobe Sign, because who's to say that mom has dementia and you have access to her email already and you didn't just send it to yourself and sign it.
Right.
So one of the ways, like Iris mentioned, is to have it printed. You have to have a wet signature, meaning you used a pen, and then it has to be notarized with 2 witnesses. I mean, 2 witnesses or notarized. The other alternative, which I find kind of ironic, because when you say holographic, I mean, my mind goes to trading cards, but it sounds digital, but a holographic will is one that you've handwritten and you've signed at the bottom. So if you write it out yourself and sign it, and of course, you're going to have all kinds of documents in your house with your signature on it. So it should be pretty easy for your loved ones to prove that it's your signature. That is the only alternative to having 2 witnesses and a notary.
Right. Thank you for elaborating on that, Cody. There's, like we said, there's different ways you can approach it. But, appointing someone to be like your digital executor or having that person, I mean, we always recommend just choose a person that you trust. It doesn't have to necessarily be a family member. It could be somebody that you work with professionally over, X amount of years, and their aesthetics and their core values. Because I think, as millennials, our generation, I'd say most of us come from a divorced family or some type of split family, and there's always going to be family dynamics. And I know,
especially when death is involved.
Exactly. And let's say you are out there and you are the black sheep of your family, and you're the one that is making it out there. You decided to move on from, the traditional stay at home, get married, and have kids and all that. But you're that person that started their own business, because reality is that those dynamics will come into play when somebody passes. Especially if that person had different orientations. I'm not going to elaborate on that, but, and the family will always come in and they're going to want to have their 2 cents, but then they had no idea towards the end of that person's life who they truly were. So it's important that you choose somebody that you trust, and, and somebody that that would be able to save your Google Drive. And there's other ways too. You can always upload things to a hard drive, a hard disk drive, an external drive, and keeping that safe. But again, there's always going to be some type of password protection on it. And just, again, elaborating, make sure you just give that information to somebody that you trust.
Yeah. And something else that I've spoken to families about is, we're talking about making your passing easy for your loved ones, and as far as like managing your needs after you're gone. But social media can also be used for closure as well, because, some people don't want, like, every once in a while, I wasn't, quote, friends with my aunt on Instagram, and every once in a while she's deceased, and every once in a while it'll like recommend her as a friend.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit hard to see.
Yeah.
And some people need the closure of shutting down the account.
Right.
But others want it to be there not only for themselves, but for other friends and, the people from their community and other organizations that they were involved in. Because if you ever see someone pass on online, there's usually just a stream of comments, like memories. It's where people go to grieve and find their own version of closure. It's almost like a digital wake of sorts. It is,
yeah. I mean, there are all kinds of memorial websites for people. And I think, we've touched briefly in one of the episodes about creating that QR code that'll send you like a link to that person's memorial, like their YouTube video. And those things are permanent, those things stay online unless, for whatever reason it gets flagged and violation and all that nonsense.
There's even a company now where you can record a video or an audio clip, and there will be a QR stone on your marker or your headstone, and your family, loved one, whoever goes to visit you can scan it and actually hear your voice, see your face. And so, that's one of the other things that people, like a lot of people will hold on to voicemails that their loved ones have left. They will call their phone even though they know they're not going to answer, just to hear their voicemail. And I don't know about you, but I think my voicemail's horrible. So like I would much rather have an audio recording of me talking to my loved ones saved somewhere that's not, hi, leave a message.
Yeah. No, I agree. I've heard that too. Sometimes like I have people who their spouse has passed, and they keep their phone for almost about a year because they know people are going to be messaging them. And that's another thing too. It's like you have your loved one's phone, and people will still text them or call the number, and it's just because they want to save whatever memory is attached to it too. And sometimes it's not easy for us to transfer those files. I know I'm always afraid that one day, like we're all afraid that our phone might break. I think that's pretty accurate. And the last thing you want to do is lose all of your precious photos and videos. And I think creating some type of format wherever you trust, whatever trusted site, or even just doing it on your own and having that in an external hard drive is so important to preserve those memories and those photos.
Also, just a little bit of like side advice. If your loved one does pass and you have their phone and someone texts or calls or whatever, make sure that if you respond, you start with, it's me, not them, because there's just something unnerving about getting a text message from someone whose funeral you attended a week ago.
Yeah. I've seen that. We're just here to try to give you that advice ahead of time, not to create any kind of confusion or and again, that's why we have that legacy planner and why we offer it. It's a great start to starting putting that information.
The conversation. Because it's uncomfortable. I've said it before, but uncomfortable things like going to the gym, like you've just got to go for it. Like it's never going to be comfortable. It won't all of a sudden one day present itself over lunch at Golden Corral. Like you've got to start it yourself. And if you are the one in need of pre-planning, talk to your kids.
Yes.
And I guarantee you probably what they're going to say is, Mom and Dad, whatever you want.
Yes.
And if you're the child who needs to start the conversation, call us. We can get you one of these legacy planners, and it'll be an easy way to kind of soft launch that topic.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if you'd like to reach us anytime, you can visit our website at singinghillsmemorialpark.com, or you're welcome to give us a call at 619-444-3000. I'm your host, Iris Wise, and this is...
and I'm Cody, and join me next week with Tessa. We're going to meet on the topic of legacies.
Yes.
We're going to be meeting with our good friend Mark Ignacio and talking about estate planning.
Yes. And thank you all for tuning in, and have a blessed day.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for listening to Journey Home Radio. We look forward to talking with you again next Saturday at noon right here on K-Praise.